Okay, so we are going to try and finish up 5-1 today. So we ended yesterday talking about coterminal angles and how you can find any angle that has the same starting point and same ending point as another angle by adding or subtracting 360 degrees. What's the significance of 360? What is 360 degrees?
Circle.
It's one full rotation. It's a circle, right? So anytime we have something bigger than 360 or smaller than negative 360, that means it's gone around at least one full rotation, is how we refer to it, or one full circle, whichever way you want to talk about it. Okay? So the last concept we need to talk about is what's called a reference angle. Okay? Reference angle. Okay? A reference angle is the acute angle formed by the terminal side. And what do I mean by terminal? It's terminal where it starts or ends? Ends. Terminal is where it ends, terminates. Okay? Formed by the terminal side of the angle and the x-axis. Okay? It's formed by the terminal side and the x-axis. Okay? So, we have 4 different types of reference angles we need to talk about. And those 4 come back to your quadrants. And depending what quadrant your angle is in, depends which one of these 4 identities you use. Okay? So, first thing we're going to do, our angle is going to be theta. And theta, again, is just it's a universal symbol that we use for angles. And we're going to say that our angle has to be between 0 and 360. So if it's larger than that, what's the first thing you need to do? Find a coterminal that's in between 0 and 360. Or if it's a negative, you need to find a coterminal that's between 0 and 360. To use the rules I'm going to show you, that's what you have to do first. Make sure it's in that one full rotation between those 2 values. So we're going to start in quadrant 1. We're going to start in quadrant 1. So as it says, it's an angle formed by the x-axis and a terminal side. Well, luckily for us, if it's in quadrant 1, or between 0 and 90, the reference angle is just itself. So if it's in quadrant 1, we just say you don't change it at all. It's just theta. Okay? Because that is on the x-axis. So if it's in quadrant 1, pretty simple.
What is the 0 with like a line through it?
Theta.
How?
This is theta. It's the universal symbol used for angles. Okay? Now, so that's quadrant 1. Next, we'll do quadrant 2. Okay? Quadrant 2. And this angle here is theta. So if it's in quadrant 2, well, that's going to be an obtuse angle. Is it not? If it's greater than 90, it's obtuse. Yeah. I don't want an obtuse angle here. I want my reference angle to be acute. So, what do I know this straight line is? 180. So to find my value in quadrant 2, I just take 180 minus theta. So my reference angle for quadrant 2 is just 180 minus theta. So you're trying to find a reference angle that is acute for any angle within our 4 quadrants. Okay? So that was quadrant 2. We now need to do quadrant 3. Well, if I'm in quadrant 3, I start here and I come all the way down here. So this is my angle measure all the way around. Okay? And I want it to be between. Now, common logic based off of our last problem is to say, okay, well, to find quadrant 3, you just take 270 minus theta. But again, I want it formed with the x-axis. Formed with the x-axis. So that doesn't work to use 270 because 270 is on the y-axis. So now what we're going to do to find theta in that case, or our reference angle, is take our angle minus 180. Take our angle minus 180. And what that's going to give us is this little angle right here. So I'm taking the straight line away. So then all I have is that little angle that's left over. Okay? Thought process, what do we think? How do we do the last one in quadrant 4? What is one full circle? 360. So how do we think we find that angle in quadrant 4?
360 minus this angle.
Excellent. So in quadrant 4, how do you find a reference angle? 360 minus theta. Whatever that angle is, I subtract it from 360, and it has to be acute. Okay? So, most important thing is to figure out, okay, is my angle between 0 and 360? If it is, good. Then figure out what quadrant is that angle in. Once I figure out the quadrant, you just got to know those 4 formulas. And if you think about it logically that it has to be with the x-axis, that should help you quite a bit. The trickiest one is remembering the difference between 2 and 3.
Can't be the x-axis every time.
Yep. Yep. All right, so let's actually apply this to a couple examples. Apply this to a couple examples. All right, so we got 120 degrees.
So that's basically the theta.
Is that between 0 and 360? Yes, it is. So in this case, our theta is 120. So we need to figure out, okay, what quadrant is 120 degrees in? It's in the second quadrant. So that's in quadrant 2. So then to find its reference angle, I got to figure out, okay, what's the formula in quadrant 2 to find reference angles? 180 minus theta. And we already said, well, theta is 120. So what is my reference angle? So my reference angle is 180 minus 120, or 60 degrees. Questions on how I did that? Not terrible, right? Now, if you're a visual person, That's 120 degrees right there. So what am I finding when I'm finding the reference angle? I'm finding this angle right there. 180 minus 120. So basically what you're doing is figuring out how much of an angle do I need to make it a straight angle or a straight line. That's essentially what that problem is asking. So your reference angle is right here.
You had 260 for the next one to start off.
Say what?
You had 360.
Yes, you do. So the next one, I got to see, is that between 0 and 360? The answer is no. So I add 360, which gives me 225. Well, what quadrant is 225 in? It's the third, right?
So that's
Formula in quadrant 3 is theta minus 180. So theta in this case is 225. That's my value between 0 and 360. Plug in. My reference angle is 225 minus 180, or 45 degrees. So again, the hardest part about reference angles is not the math itself, it's the formulas. Okay? Once you figure out the formulas, it's a pretty simple process. Yes, Red?
Will the formulas be required to,
You're going to need to know them, yeah.
but do we get enough credit for this test?
I haven't decided yet. Not for a while.
There's gonna be more of them.
Oh no.
From what we talked about yesterday, I can't, from our definition of reference angles on the last slide, my angle has to be between 0 and 360 to use the formulas. So if it's negative, you have to keep adding 360 until it falls between 0 and 360. Yep. Because you're just trying to get it to that coterminal angle that we talked about yesterday. All right. So you're going to have some time to work on your assignment for today.
Yeah.
This is true.
That sounds like enough right there.
All right. There's your 5-1 homework assignment.